Now, because we did the new format, because we're doing the new format here, we haven't had any in-studio guests yet until now. So this is the first
not
in-studio
live.
guest. Not live.
Yeah.
Well, we did one, but that was Hallman, and that wasn't a live. That was a whole separate thing. It wasn't part of
That
the
was a
show.
pre-record, right?
That was a pre-record. But we do have a guest today. She actually wrote a book called The Alphabet Games, The Numinous Protocol. Her name is Birgit Von Schondorf. Did I get it right?
Very good.
Damn, I got it right.
Very good.
I was a little nervous going into it.
Ding, 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 ding.
Oh, a positive point for me today. I got positivity points today.
Oh, you haven't issued any demerits today so far.
No, I haven't. Well,
Wow.
you're going to get some later.
Okay, good.
I got demerits for Rick Scott and AFP today.
Yeah, we got a lot of them.
All right. She actually wrote now this book is actually a nonfiction book. It's about U.S. intelligence operatives, their incredibly dangerous and fascinating lives. It's the first book actually in a series of books that you're going to write. So first off, thank you very much for coming in studio today.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's wonderful to be here.
Now, how did this book come about for you? I mean, I read some of the bio, and it doesn't seem like anything in your bio was necessarily in relation to this. How did you get to talk about this this subject?
I work a lot in Washington and do some different things, and I'm a writer and a journalist, and I have some very, very high level contacts and sources that I've developed over many years, really, really deep friendships that have led me to having very candid conversations, and that's spilled in a lot of the things that I'd already summarized on my own and put together on my own with a lot of research. So it's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in this one.
Oh, I bet. Now, if you, I watch some TV. In some of the TV I watch, some of the shows that I think that I tend to like more than others are ones like Burn Notice. I don't know if you've ever heard of this show or not, but it's one on USA. Now that talks about operatives. Now again, the guy was burnt, and there's a whole thing going on, but it does talk about a little bit about the network in there. Can you describe in the way that in the conversations that you had with these people, what kinds of things? And again, it's in the book, so if you want to know, you got to read the book as well. But what are some of the kind of the things that you would want to share, in the interview today about what is going on within the intelligence agency?
Well, I think people have to recognize that with the agencies that in the current climate, a tremendous amount of people that don't have a tremendous amount of control or experience are reaching in and usurping credit for a lot of things that people have done for decades without their help.
Can you give an example of that?
Well, there's a lot of things that are in the media right now. Let me see if I can denote a specific chapter with regard to how the narrative relates to the book.
Now, are you saying so? For example, the intelligence community is doing things, and then the politicians are taking credit for it, or? Well,
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that are like I said, usurping credit for things that are going on. People have to understand, like when I bumped into you gentlemen before, that these agencies and these people are not political. These are not political animals. I mean, yes, there are the exception to the rule that there's a political person within a group and they do things for so said reason. However, as a group, these people are not political animals. These people work through and have to work through many administrations, within the constraints of, all of the things that are set up. And it's very, very difficult for them. The climate that we're in right now is very, very hard for them. They're much more used to being left alone than they are now.
Do you think that has to do with, and not just this administration, but this administration and the ones previous to this have treated like the director of the CIA as more of a political appointee? They are appointed politically, but instead of finding maybe the right person to do the job, they're finding the right political person to do the job, which may not be the same person.
Well, I think that's a pretty good assessment. If you look at specifically, I want to talk about the book. I don't want to talk about politics, but the book is political by default because it's nonfiction.
Yeah.
So it's just, there it is, boom, But the thing is that if you look at some of the appointees now, especially since we have this administration in for a second go-round, different positions are always used as payback, but some of the people that have been floated or gone to certain positions or certain embassy positions around the world are not usually necessarily people that you would think, would be inserted into said position.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, just the recall this past week with all the embassies out of the Middle East and everything, it's just...
Now, that's a prime example. Do you see that as a political decision or an independent, intelligent assessment?
Well, I think honestly with this administration, I don't know if there's anything that's done that isn't a political decision.
Yeah, right. No, absolutely.
And so, do I think that there are problems? Do I know that there are problems? Do we have a history of problems? Let's look back at Benghazi and everything else like that. We lost 4 very valuable people, and that are not easily duplicated. And then there's many other people that will have scars, be it physical or mental, that will last for their entire lives that we don't even know about yet.
Yeah. Now, speaking of that, though, there was actually a report, and we talked about this last week, how within the CIA itself, that some of the people that were involved with the Benghazi situation are being on a monthly basis being checked to make sure that they haven't talked to anybody in the media.
They're being polygraph tested.
Yeah, they're being polygraphed on a monthly basis. Was there anything about that?
But the thing is that if you look at everything that's going down, in my humble opinion, just as a citizen, this seems to be the leakiest administration that's ever been out. And it seems that they only leak when they feel that it's beneficial to them.
Like they use the leak itself
But
as a political
then
tool.
they seem to get very upset when it's not to their benefit.
One of their controlled leaks.
Exactly.
Right.
There you go. So, and that's what people seem to be paying attention to, and that's really, this book is before most of that those issues went down. But this is something that this book really shines a light on, because that's a huge issue. Because the people that do this work, the people that do this heavy lifting day in, day out, this is not something, gentlemen, this is not something where you make a lot of money. This is not something where you get accolades. This is not something where people know who you are. This is the antithesis of that. That's most of what people seem to pursue in this country. People either want wealth, or they want notoriety, or they want all of these things. And these people go very much to the opposite side. So you have to understand that most of these folks are definitely really not political and on the side of good, because what motivates them is completely different than what motivates 99% of the populace.
And what would you say that motivational factor is for most of your contacts for the book?
For me, I think it's preservation and survival instinct and guilt, and is a really good way. Guilt, in a good way, because people work very hardly, very hard at what they do, and they're very concerned about the direction of the country, and they feel a great deal of guilt to provide for the people that come after them, to pay it forward. They realize that we've been in a unique position in the world, and with what we've managed to accomplish with a single mindset as a people from all over the world, the wretched refugees from all over the world that have come here, that have built the country, and the prosperity that our system, although imperfect, has provided.
But guilt is an interesting choice of words there. What would you say that guilt stems from? Do you feel that it's the operatives themselves or the agents or analysts? Are they feeling guilt for what they've specifically done?
No, not at all. And I don't want it twisted like that.
Okay, I wasn't
we
sure.
want you to clarify.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Guilt, maybe not the perfect choice of words, but guilt for just wanting to pay it forward, knowing. See, the perspective is unique. Americans are very sheltered, and when you go around the world, you see that the reality is not very pretty. I mean, there's a select few places around the world where things are, but barely like here in control. And then there's the preeminent amount of the world where things are basically completely out of control 24/7 and have been that way for a very, very long time. And Americans just generally, as a rule, don't get that picture. And so
because they don't see it. Like, they don't go out there. Like, they don't go to the other countries.
They're
and
not
see
exposed to it. And when they do go somewhere, they're usually older, and it's the Bob and Meg bus tour, and it's look here, look there.
Right.
I mean, I have people come back from China, and they say how fabulous it is, and how beautiful it is, and how wonderful. And the whole time that you're there, your head is moved. Here, look here, see this, see this, see this. But you can't take your devices. You're hacked the whole time you're there. People have absolutely no idea of what's really going on. And so our perspective is really stilted. And then when they get back here, most people take things for granted, terribly for granted. And when these operatives come back home, when these people come back home from most of the places that they go or get sent, the disparity between what we have and what people take for granted and what other people have, not that it's our fault or their fault, certainly it's not. It's up to people's selves and their governments to work hand in hand together, that they all make their choices.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, in the book, you talked about incredibly dangerous and fascinating lives. That would lend me to believe, and again, I haven't read the book yet, so I have not done that yet.
Well, I'm looking forward to you doing that.
No, thank you. Now, when you talk about those things, I imagine some of that information is in the book itself. So you're going to get some of these stories. Now, you're getting it directly from the person that was involved in that situation. So it's a pretty close, enough to where it would be considered nonfiction. So it's a close representation. Are some of those stories in the book?
Direct operational accounts.
Oh, completely. There's operational information completely in the accounts. Of course, the names have been changed, for obvious purposes.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
For people's safety. If you look in the front of the book, besides the advanced reviews, you'd see that we haven't done this in the media, but the dedication was to CIA Director General David Petraeus, because what happened to him was ridiculous.
Oh, I mean, that was that. It seemed like that. Now that seemed like one.
Are you talking about the story of his affair, or?
Oh yeah, it
Okay.
should have been something that was behind closed doors. That was.
You actually believe that?
Between a couple, it should have been. The situation was.
Why do you think that it ended up going public?
I think that's a flash forward to some things that we talked about earlier.
Okay. Because it turned into a political thing.
Oh, it's a football.
Now, in with this, because there's a lot of talk, and again, we're a very libertarian show, I guess, in that aspect. And
That's
so
good.
there is definitely some things when it comes to national defense that we support national defense, and we actually support the ability to be able to make sure that we defend this country. In with that, sometimes the CIA and organizations like this, they get a bad rap, and they get a bad rap
Deservedly so.
Well, but here's the thing, though. Do you think that, like, let's go with the spying on American citizens, that what's going on when it comes to PRISM and some of these other things? These are things that are directives from politicians. They're the ones that are saying to do these things at certain levels, and then they get directives. Well, you have to make sure that this happens and this happens and this happens. Do you think that the pressure that's coming from politicians, in addition to the pressure that's coming from, the world that we're living in nowadays, lends itself for overreaches where you're having that, and the people talk a lot about, well, there needs to be this balance between liberty and security. Well, I would say that there needs to be a balance, or that we need to make sure that we're following the Constitution at all times.
Man, you're really dancing around the question. What's your opinion of Snowden's revelations about the NSA PRISM program spying on all Americans?
Okay, well, I'm going to make your listeners mad. He's a traitor. And I'm sorry for making people mad, but I'm just a very, very much a straight shooter. People in the alphabets are faulted for a lot of things that they're not responsible for. They have a very hard job. They have to walk the line between political BS and what they actually have to get done. Now realize that whoever is in at the time gets gone to with, hey, this is the problem we're having. This is what the deal is. This is what we need to find. How do we do this within the constraints? And so many, many times the people in the alphabets, which is something that's in here too, even though there's not a lot of cyber in here, there'll be more cyber stuff in the second and third books and things like that, because this was, a couple years. But anyway, the point is that their hands are tied, and based on who they're working with, their hands are tied more or less. So what the job that they're doing, let's put it this way, the job that they're doing in the environment that they've been put into right now is impossible.
I couldn't disagree with you more on that. And let me just explain why. I believe that each individual who works in those alphabet agencies, they all swore an oath to uphold and defend the United States Constitution. Now, they have a hard choice to make. But if they were actually true to their oath, and if, in my opinion, they were true American patriots, they would not do those things. They would not violate the Fourth Amendment. They would uphold that oath that they took and resign. So I believe that it's not really a valid argument to say, oh, well, they're in a difficult situation, they have to do. No, they don't have to do. They don't have to follow those orders.
Well, hold on. Let me say something as well here. It's funny that I'm going to take the middle of this whole thing. The point I think I was trying to make beforehand is that they get into these positions for, and I think that the word guilt that you were using is actually a guilt that we're a free country, and so they want to make sure to protect it, and so they feel like they have to do all they can to be able to protect it.
But they're protecting it, quote unquote, by destroying it.
Middle of the haircut, guy. Middle of the haircut again.
All right, shoot.
All right. But I think though that systemically, the problems that have come in are systemic and also political problems. That I think that what you're seeing right now is what's coming out is this information is not being used just by the CIA or the FBI. It's being used by local law enforcement. It's being used by the DEA. Right. It's being used by all these other organizations that are not about national security. They're actually about, catching domestic people doing wrong things, but not terrorist-related things like just the drugs or something along those lines.
But regardless, I view any of those individuals on an individual basis as traitors if they violate their oath. It doesn't matter what this... I mean, I agree with you completely. It is a systemic problem, but it is the individuals...
Well, here's the thing, though.
...that allow that to happen.
Okay, but here's the thing. What you have to fix, though, is you have to fix the systemic problem, though. Either way, you got to fix the problem, because just the guy quitting doesn't fix the problem. And this is where I would disagree on this.
If there's some overreach, because there's been some problems obviously around the country with local police forces and things like that. If there's some overreach or problems like that, those are not problems that these other people can be blamed for or anything like that, because that's
part of it. I
mean,
agree.
because the whole issue here is basically most people are dealing from the point of view where the information that they're getting or that's getting out, or a small sliver of the information, they're playing in a school gymnasium, and what I'm talking about is playing in a stadium, and it's a whole different ball game.
But my question is more. For example, and we'll take it on a real personal level. If the NSA is recording my phone calls, if the NSA is recording my emails, potentially monitoring my emails, if they are recording my activities online, do you see that as those individuals involved in that process as violating the Fourth Amendment?
Okay. Well, I can't answer that as a yes or no question because they're not recording in the way that you think they're recording. What you're referring to is called signals intelligence.
Yeah,
and
SIGINT.
all they're
Right.
doing is looking at numbers. They don't care what you're doing or what you're saying or what your Facebook pictures are. When they do things, they're capturing. They're looking for patterns in
Sure.
numbers.
But
And once those patterns are found, then things are sorted out and things go on from there.
Okay, but they
But-
are recording that data.
But that data that you're referring to has been done. It's been everything on the internet has been looked after since it stared.
Oh, I agree.
Since the mid '90s.
Sure,
But that's
Echelon initiated
But
it.
that's just actually there's another program too, and
Right.
that's just a function of where we're at. I mean, that's just a function of technology. That's where we're at. I mean, it's not a matter of us having a choice or someone else. If you look at things, if you think that other forces at work in the world aren't doing the same thing, or maybe didn't even beat us to it, they don't care about the average person. They're looking for patterns with regard to preventing things here and abroad. That's it. And I am not in agreement with the current admin with regard to any of this at all. I don't care what their narrative is.
Yeah. Yeah, I get, and this is the last. Well, first off, I again, because I love watching shows like Burn Notice, like spy things are definitely one of those interesting topics because most of the times it's like a spy guy is going out by himself and he's undercover.
Right,
in a
it's the whole
foreign country.
007 or 24 type.
Yeah.
Is that how it is?
But that's the way
way
it
the media
is.
portrays it.
Right.
Many times, but that's only the section of clandestine that's actually clandestine, as opposed to everybody else and all the analysts and everything. I mean, it takes so many people to move this ball down the road. If people really understood what went in to making it the way that it is, making it safe, making it so that the air is not poisoned and that we're safe and we have clean water and clean air and a clean food supply and all these other things. If people really understood how much it took to keep this ball up in the air.
Well, I think
that actually brings
that's
me
a false
that
argument.
hold on. No,
Yeah.
that actually does bring me another question, and this is a question when it does come to transparency. It is my understanding that when it comes to all kinds of government documents, that all of them have a certain point in which they become public information, and I believe that is 50 years. That after 50 years,
Yeah.
all of the information becomes public information. Do you think, and this is only your opinion, of course, do you think that the 50-year time frame is a good time frame, or should it be shorter? And the reason that I say should it be shorter is this. There are many things that I do believe that the American people should be more privy to, if not only for the reason that if things are as bad as many times we've heard that they could be, that giving the American people the information would actually be a good way in which to ease those fears or whatever. Do you think that the amount of secret information should go down, should go up, or do you think that cutoff where everything's public after so many years?
Well, not everything is. There are certain levels of intelligence that are never released.
Oh, so okay. Well,
Yeah.
I would actually prefer that after a certain, again, because it needs to have operational value in order to be secret. If it no longer possesses that operational value, then making it public does not damage anybody that's on the ground, because you don't want to put anybody in danger.
Sure, you never want operational intelligence.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you think about
Yeah.
that?
See, but it's not a matter of it's not a matter of a time frame. It's a matter of what it is. Okay, so let's take the two big issues that we've dealt with during this administration in the past little bit. Okay, let's take Manning and Snowden. Okay, All right. So they've cost our country, our taxpayers, so much money that I don't even know where to put the figure. They've put people, real people, like the people that you and I are sitting at this table, flesh and blood, and installations in danger, in serious danger.
Can you cite an example of that? Because I actually, and I partially might agree with you.
I can't. Because, well, for example...
It's all right, I have a secret security clearance.
For example...
You can tell me.
PFC Manning, for example, okay? One of the things he did was collate everything. There was no need that needed to be collated. There was no need that needed to be, made easier. Because we have a free society, we have somewhat free exchange of information. It's better than pretty much anywhere else on the planet.
Well, see, you just wait a second. You had a conflict there in a single sentence. Because we have a free society, you said we have a somewhat free flow of information, and we're better than everyone else. That's not good enough for me.
Okay, well.
Now, but I do want to go back to the Bradley Manning thing. I have held the position that I haven't seen any specific item where he released operational intelligence that put U.S. Either soldiers or assets in direct harm's way. If I had seen something like that, I may have changed my opinion and said, yeah, he did damage. He may have committed treason. I haven't seen it yet. So my question to everyone on this issue is, can you cite me an example of something that Bradley Manning released that was information that actually put an operational assets in harm's way?
Okay.
And I just haven't seen it.
Okay. Well, you have to realize that a lot of information like that isn't going to get out, because if
he's released it's already public.
Anybody tells you or Congress or me or anyone else, then it's out there. Then they're telling our enemies as well.
But again, that's a logical disconnect, because if Bradley Manning released the information the information should be out there already. And
well, I said he did release it, but he collated things. He did a lot of things. And just because you can do something doesn't mean you should.
I take the opposite approach. I think that Bradley Manning and Edward Snowden are whistleblowers exposing illegal activities by our government.
Okay. Well, there are definitely bad apples in the mix. There's bad apples in the mix in anything, in any organization, in anything. Period. Has there been some overreach? Maybe, and whether you'll never know, and neither will I. But for the most part, everything that is done is done because it has to be, not because they want to be. And it has nothing to do, like I said, I'm not in support of this admin. I'm in support of the groups.
But why does it have to be?
Because people are gathering signals intelligence, and without it, we wouldn't have the warnings that we do, and we don't have, as a country, what we have as far as things to use against the forces that want to sink us all of the time. It's not enough. It's a constant race for survival.
Okay. And again, you guys, the good thing about the show is that we will definitely bring people on when it comes to certain things where we have some agreements and some disagreements.
And I do want to say,
it's a good, healthy dialogue.
You've been a trooper. You held your own. This was obviously not an easy interview for you, and you did well.
It's not a problem.
Yeah.
Now, if people wanted to find more information out about the book, where can they go? I mean, I can read it off, or you can.
They can go to www.thealphabetgames.com. Like I said, this is a first book in a series. There's a buy now button on the site, or they can go directly to Amazon.com. It's got a white cover. It looks like a ransom note.
It does look like a ransom note.
It's got a big eagle on it. That's what the intent was.
Buy this book, damn it!
And it's a softback and a Kindle book only. So,
no, we understand that part.
And it's a short read, and we made it really inexpensive and fun and fast, so that people could get it, so that it could get out to the average person, and it wouldn't be. And
there's some juicy bits in there about spy stuff and stuff like that. So.
There's operational things. It's a very psychological book. It's pretty much the most intensely intimate open source that's ever been out there on this topic. So it's kind of unique in the world. It's certainly not something that you would expect to be written by a chick.
We didn't bring any of that part of it up. Now, no, we won't bring any of that stuff up. That would diminish what the reason for the book is all about.
No,
here.
it's okay. It's okay.
So
We have a sense of humor.
No, yeah, no. We got to be able to laugh at the same time. Now the website again is the alphabetgames.com. Birgit, I really do appreciate you coming in today and going through this. I think it's going to be really, really. I'm actually going to I'm going to read the book and
I can't
give
wait
my
to sign
thoughts
this
on
to
it.
you.
So
Yeah,
I appreciate
send it my way when you're done. I am curious to read it now.
Okay.
I
I may
would
not
love-
agree with all the conclusions,
of
but I
people-
think I'll enjoy it.
A lot of people worked really hard on it, so it's something that I'm pretty proud of.
Okay,
It's-
great.
Outstanding.
All
Well,
right.
thanks so much for being with us today.